Chapter 14, 1910. Alfred's muscles have grown rather strong, and his hair has grown rather long, after another frenetic year, during which time he has done more good deeds at high speeds, and worked away in top gear, meeting new people at his workshop, at his bus stop, and at home, which is just here. The year is 1910. An American physicist is publishing the first ever infrared photographs in a scientific publication. A Chinese politician is ending slavery in his nation, and a French actress is becoming the first female to hold a pilot's license. In France, the first ever neon lights are being displayed. In America, instant coffee is starting to trade. And in Korea, a whole country is being annexed in silence, whilst the British elect 177 politicians who support the National Service League stance, call for conscription to be given a chance, and call for more violence. Alfred reads about this whilst his stepfather greases his boots with some fresh pig fat, adjusts his gibbous hat, and falls asleep in his favourite chair, whilst his mother washes his clothes with some sunlight soap, and mends his rope near this retired captain who has white hair. This retired captain talks about breeding dogs and carving logs as he smokes his mermaid-shaped pipe. He talks about spotting trains and exploring remains with a lively sort of hype. And he talks about collecting stamps and making lamps of every imaginable type. He is here because Alfred's mother has become far less reserved, with a spine which is far less curved, since she spoke of the Beninese War, which is why she welcomes this man, who drinks from his can, and why she removes a watch from that drawer. "I'd like you to have this, my little soldier," she tells Alfred as she closes this door. "Look at me, be respectable. This belonged to your father in heaven. He brought his ivory strap back from Africa, but the watch itself has been in your family for many, many years. It's been passed down from father to son, man to boy, and soldier to soldier. It has. Now, my wonderful warrior, it's all yours, 'cause you should be a mighty soldier too. You'll rule from north to south and east to west, somewhere, somewhen, somehow. You shall. But when elephants killed to get this ivory, Alfred questions. "Oh, how it suits you, Alfred," his mother mentions. But please tell me, isn't killing elephants cruel? "Oh, how it brings out the white cliffs of Dover. Oh, how it brings out the love, loyalty and passion." But please tell me about the elephants. Pretty please with a cherry on top. "Oh, what a handsome boy you're growing into, my fearless fighter. Oh, what a handsome soldier you'll become, just like good old Bernie." Alfred does not know what has caused his mother's transformation, which has made her treat soldiers with veneration, affection, adoration, and adulation. He does not know what has made his mother attend army events dressed in khaki sweaters, reread his father's old army letters, and agree with this man's narration. She usually only invites her sisters into their family home to sit on these seats which are stuffed with foam, where they always start their yawning, before they start their soggy cheek wetting, gentle hair petting, and overbearing fawning. "Gollies, he's going to be a brave un. I can see it presently. Just look at how he walks around as if he owns the place," a drooling aunt once said while she ate like a glutton. "He's a fine laddie. He'll go into a strong soldier. I bet my last halfpenny on it," a fidgety aunt once said while she played with a button. "Right you are. He has his father's long legs and his grandfather's muscled arms," a restless aunt once said while she chewed some mutton. But with the freedom which retirement grants, this retired captain is older than those aunts, with hair on his ears and lines on his chin, glasses which fall down his nose, patches on his clothes, hair on his hands, and lines on his skin. "I was a bit of a father figure to your pa, even if I don't say so myself," he begins to sing. "Well, I was at first. I can't help thinking that he became my teacher in the end. He was a dashed good sort and a mighty fine soldier. He was intelligent, respectable, and strong, with an ability to put off the impossible. Fino!" The retired captain begins to choke, coughs up some smoke, and smiles at his own conclusion, before Alfred's mother makes a forward sway and backs away in a dizzy state of confusion. "I've some things to say to you, my terrific trooper. I do, she says as she leads Alfred's stepfather past these books, these hooks, and this chessboard which is covered in regions, rectangles, and rooks. "I'll leave you two soldiers alone." She leaves him alone whilst the retired captain adjusts his glasses, fills his pipe with fresh molasses, and lights his lamp which glows. For he speaks about the wars he has won in Burma, Sudan, and Afghanistan, and about crushing all of his foes. "But I guess you want to hear about your father," he sings as he taps his toes. "Your talent for the juicy bits. Righto!" Alfred nods, looks up at the gods, and down at his fishing rods. "Well, my son, Your pa was one of the many thousands of men sent to South Africa just a few months into the offensive there," he continues in a joyous tone which shakes his navel bone with the brassness of a tenor trombone. "We journeyed to that distant land together, as it just so happens. Sure, for our country, for our country. This was back in 1900, when you were just 3 years old. Your pa had left you and your ma with a heavy heart. He was perfectly obsessed with you. Surely to goodness he was infatuated with his little lad. Well, the Boers have been at odds with the British for many years. Those uneducated fools who had pea soup for brains didn't take kindly to our banishment of slavery. Those buffoons, whose hearts were awry with their heads, had refused to bestow voting rights on the decent British citizens who had been mining for gold and diamonds. Deuce of a row was brewing, and war broke out in 1899. True-o. After many battles and many sieges, after many losses on both sides, and after starvation which saw surrounded towns turn to dog meat and horse meat for nourishment, your pa rode in to save the day. My son, he was a knight in shining armour, your pa. He vanquished the enemy, stood up for law and order, and protected the good British folk. It was a splendid thing. Fine-o. But we're not all plain sailing. No-o. South Africa wasn't exactly a go-as-you-please sort of a place. Far from it. Most fights were as broad as they were long. The Boers knew the terrain well. They were skilled marksmen who were accustomed to stalking game in the bush, with a never-say-die attitude which proved a mighty nuisance. Tricky-o. So we won battles as well as lost them. And there's no such thing as an easy victory. Not against the Boers. Not in South Africa. My word, it was a darn slop, even if I don't say so myself. Well, my son, one such battle was still in its first day. Fighting had started at dawn, and the British commander was keen for it to end by dusk. Guns had been fired, bullets had rained down from the skies, and the earth had shaken beneath our feet. Defences and counter-offences had ebbed and flowed. My lord, it was a right kick-up, a real ding-dong affair. Nasty-o. The battle had eventually turned in our favour. Our higher position, greater numbers and advanced weaponry had all begun to tell. But dusk was throwing its dark cloak over the arena of war. Time was running out, and your pa had to think fast to save the day. So, as cool as a cucumber, he gathered up his soldiers' pocket mirrors, the serving trays in the canteen, and the cutlery in the pantry, double quick. And with help from his men, he deedily attached the mirrors to his unit's steeds, using company rope and his soldiers' darning kits. He affixed the trays to the army's mules, and the cutleries to a herd of mountain goats. It was all rather tip-top and Bristol fashion, even if I don't say so myself. Fine-o! My son, he lined those noble steeds, strong mules and grazing goats in regimented army order, head to heel and heel to head, in long lines which stretched across the hillside. For his country! For his country! The goats were at the front, the mules rose up behind them, and the steeds were up top. The Boers hadn't an earthly what was going on. They just stood there as a big mass of glossy mirrors, sparkling trays, and polished cutlery formed a metal wall before them. Shiny-o! And, angled betwixt the setting sun and the enemy below, that wall reflected every ray of light back down onto the Boers, and blinded them all. Bright-o! The sun stood still in the heavens, whilst the moon was made to wait, and your pa's men picked off their foe one by one. It was a real knockout, a real bloodbath, a blooming good show, top-notch, good-o! No day had been extended like that afore or since. My son, only your pa could have made it happen. And your pa, he fought for Britain, for his country, this land of hope and glory. The retired captain looks at Alfred with eyes which seem fresh, as if he believes that Alfred is made from his own army flesh and his own army blood. His glasses fall off his face, his smoke fills his place, and his heart begins to thud. But the thought of picking off humans, one by one, and killing them dead with a British gun, does not fill Alfred with glory. It makes Alfred feel sad, it makes him feel mad, and it makes him dislike the story. For whilst Alfred is still keen to listen to his father's stories, learn about his glories, and unravel his hidden mysteries, the retired captain's tale makes Alfred doubt the virtue of soldiers' cause, the veneration of their wars, and the value of their victories. So instead of being swayed by the retired captain's narration, he looks to a good German for inspiration, afflatus, assistance, and advice. He walks towards his mentor, passes a shopping centre, and this Iceman who is selling white ice. He arrives at this greengrocery where he sees the good German counting his rosary beads at various speeds with tranquillity on his face. but his red rubies with magenta twirls and his perfectly spherical aqua pearls do look a little bit out of place. Unlike the wooden beads which Alfred is used to, these beads are beryl, bronze and blue, with a gentle sort of grace. "They are from India, yeah?" the good German says as he cuts to the chase. "They use rosaries in India, sir?" Alfred asks with confusion and disillusion whilst he stares into empty space. "Oh, yeah," the good German continues as he puts his beads back into their case. "They have monks who wear similar robes to our priests, and who take the same vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. In India, people give offerings like we do here, and they have holy pictures with auras which are just like the halos you see on Christian paintings too." "Oh," Alfred replies. "Do they have baptisms in India? Please tell me, sir. Please, please, please. My baptism is next week." "Oh, yeah, Alfie. They fully submerge themselves in the river Ganges to wash away their sins, to walk in a newness of life, as I think you say. Just wait here a minute, dear boy." The good German scuttles across this rickety floor, scampers through that swinging door, and scurries up to his flat. He returns with this murky liquid, whose smell is somewhat vivid, and then he begins to chat. "I want you to have this," he says, whilst the clouds begin to part above that cart, that dove, and that cat. "It's holy water from the river Ganges, yeah? Dear child, you can use it during your baptism. You are like a son to me, Alfie. With you, I am well pleased." Alfred uses this holy water during a joint baptism with a tailor's daughter before he walks towards the seaside. He walks along these rocky drags and past those rocky crags which are damp from the last high tide. These trawlers come and go, and these anglers to and fro, amidst torrents of noisy speech, whilst these traders stag, these dogs yap, and the sea laps over that beach. But in the blink of an eye, waves jump up towards the sky, hit by rain and hit by hail. Like when Alfred was born, so begins this storm, and so begins this feisty gale. These skies turn dark, as does that park, whilst lightning strikes that whale. The saltwater sea spits out with disgust, as these fishermen are rocked by this gust, and rocked by this windy storm. These waves shrug their watery shoulders, and crash boats into boulders with windy derision and windy scorn. Whilst here on dry land, these people offer a hand without becoming forlorn. Here is this formal auctioneer, this shady racketeer, and this newspaper seller, this passing shopper, this off-duty copper, and this fortune teller. Alfred joins them near this port, offers his moral support, and pulls these trawlers aground. He pulls these fishermen ashore until his hands are sore and his body is totally browned. And then he finds him a place to doze, some clothes, and some blankets to pass around. Alfred rebukes the wind, water, and waves, blesses everyone he saves, and calms the effects of a storm. He does not stop, and he does not drop, until these fishermen feel well, welcome, and warm. His actions earn Alfred love, loyalty, and passion, in a friendly fashion, from all the men who he saves. So they take him to sea, train him like a new draftee, and teach him all about the waves. They teach him about the burbot, bream and bass, ray, roach and wrasse, bluefish, boarfish and brill, about where to cast his net, how to avoid the wet, and which fish not to kill. "Cast your net on the other side," he says after they fail to catch a fish one day, whilst he points away towards that distant hill. "Please, please, please, I think you'll do much better over there." The fishermen take a chance on the suggestion, catch too many fish to mention, and struggle to pull them all on board. They catch so many codlings and so many rocklings they need help with this massive hoard. They sail away across this bay and reach this sunny land, where they nod, barbecue cod, and dance on the sunny sand. "Please can you apprentice my friend?" Alfred asks as he gets up to stand. "Please, please, please. I'd be ever so grateful. I'd be very much obliged." The fishermen agree and smile with glee before they employ the mute boy as a deckhand, which makes Alfred feel delighted, excited, glad, gleeful, and grand.